When I look at this component, I can see that it has two main parts to it. The first main part is this toolbar at the top, and then the second part is a list of items, and the list of items can have an overflow depending on how many items there are in. So this is the first place we need to start. This is a Miro sketch of the layout. So the outer rectangle represents the component itself. And then inside this component, we need to have a toolbar that will contain our toolbar items and an unordered list that contains our unordered list items. So it's important for us to start here and then make sure we get this right first before we continue. So in my IDE, I've got a side-by-side view. On the right-hand side, I've got my component, so I can see what I need to develop. And on the left-hand side, I've got my HTML. And we know that the thing around the edges is our component. And so we need the toolbar and the UL. For the toolbar, we're going to just use a div, and we're going to say that the role is equal to a toolbar. And now I have my toolbar to put items inside of. And the item at the bottom is a UL, so I'm going to add that so that I can use that further. Now on its own, that's fine, but the styling is really missing here. Going to the browser and refreshing it, you can see there's my toolbar and there's my UL. I have a problem though that when I hover my mouse on the component itself, I can see that the width and the height is 0, 0. Even if I give this thing a width, let's say background is red, width is 100 pixels, height is 100 pixels, nothing is showing, and that's the first hurdle that we have to overcome. The reason why this is not showing is because the component has to at least have some form of block type display to show. So we can say that the display is block here. And now we can see that the component actually has a width and a height. But because we have this toolbar in the UL, we can't use display block because we want to affect the layout. So I have two options here. I can use Flexbox or I can use Grid. In this case, I'm going to use Grid because it's actually going to allow the content inside of the cells to automatically scale to the cell size without me having to define that. So let me go and do that and show you what that looks like. In this case, we're not going to use shadow dump because we want to affect the styles from the outside. But I also don't want my styles to go and bleed outside of it. So I'm using the component name as a prefix to my styling, and I have to just put a default styling on the component in any way. Set the width to 20 rem, the height to 30 rem, and we set the display to grid. So again, you have to set the display, otherwise you're going to have weird results. We've got two rows, so the first row in this we want to make 3 rem and the rest is just auto. So size according to the scale of the component, because we have this resize button over here, so when we move it up and down we want that row to scale accordingly. I've got a border which we make solid 1 pixel silver, and then I've added a border radius. There's also a drop shadow on there. I'm not going to bother about that right now. I just want to make sure that this basic layout actually renders correctly. Going to the browser and refreshing it, you can see that we have our component. Let's take the picking tool and select our component here, and then we click on the grid item on the toolbar, and we can see here is our row and here is our toolbar and our UL. It looks pretty good. Let's take that off and we can see there, and even if I sort of take the picking tool and I hover inside of it, then I can see what's going on here, and immediately I can see, well, alright, I've got a problem with the UL because it's got this margin on the right which is quite aggressive that I want to get rid of. So on the UL we want to take that off and make sure that that's clean. Going back to our component, we only have one UL in the component, so we can just say my component UL has a margin of 0, We want to give it a padding of 0. We can see here that none of these items actually have bullet points on it, so we also want to say that our list style is none. Let's save that, and for testing purposes, let's just add a couple of LIs here. So we're just going to say li group header, li tab, text field, and image. I'm just going to stick with that for now. Going back to our UI, we can see there's my header, here's my UL. It doesn't have any margin or padding on it, and my list items don't have bullet points on it. We'll style these a little bit better moving forward, but we can at least see that our fundamental framework is looking pretty good.